Sharing now, okay.
Okay, this is Joe. I have 1032, so we'll get started. And for those that are just joining for the first time, thank you for joining. I'm our Houston chapter leader, and I'll just get us kicked off here. And so for today's agenda, we're actually having Dory. Dory is our special guest. Dory, you didn't know you were our guest, but you are. And Dory is going to talk about our Houston Sunnyside Solar Energy Project, which is pretty exciting. And then we'll talk about our calling campaign. We'll get into our lever status reports, and then we'll go into our lever breakout session. So, Dory, why don't you get started? Thank you for doing this for us.
Thank you for inviting me to speak about the Sunnyside Project. I want to start, or before I begin, I want to commend all the CCL members for the work, the advocacy you guys do for the climate, getting an action happening at the federal level and now at the state level. And I just, for those of us, I know we're right now the greater Houston area with the CCL chapter, but those of us in Houston, we all benefit from having Mayor Turner, a mayor that cares about the climate enough to take action, which is great. And we have on the call today Laura Cottingham, our Chief Sustainability Officer, and she's been a speaker here about the Climate Action Plan. And so we are just really fortunate here in Houston to have that kind of support. And I know you all may be involved at the local level as well. I know that there are working groups for the Climate Action Plan that Laura would be happy to have your involvement in. And I know you strive probably for efficient living, and maybe some of you have gone solar. In fact, I know you have. So thank you. Thank you for all that effort. And I'll share screen and begin. I'm going to begin, if it's okay, with just a brief history of how I got to working on the Sunnyside Project. And so it's a picture, it's a story in pictures. And I'm just admit to being an energy addict, and I started way back in high school taking my physics class through a tour of my dad's geothermally heated warehouse in Westchester County, and now it has solar, and then teaching kids as my kids grew up all about living gently on the earth, and then starting with my husband, a company that started our back guest bedroom but grew to a nationwide company promoting solar called Grow Solar. And then when I branched off and started Wolf Energy 2010, 2011, it was right at the time in New England where virtual net metering was happening and community-owned solar was possible. And so we developed several community-owned solar arrays. And at the same time, in our own backyard, there was a Superfund site that was being cleaned up. And together we made it into a super solar Superfund site, which was really, really exciting. So, and the whole time we're living as this, I've always had solar on my home, and we now have electric vehicles. So in our personal lives, we also just walked the walk. And so come to Houston back in 2016 and got involved with Houston Renewable Energy Group, HREG, helping to solarize homes. Then Solar United Neighbors came to Texas, and we've been working to do more homes through Solar United Neighbors. And a plug, there's a co-op right now open that anybody from the Houston, greater Houston area can join, called Spring Branch Solar Co-op. And so if you get inspired to do solar, there's an avenue we can help make it easy. So anyway, I come to Houston having this background, and I listened to Laura Cottingham speak at one of the HREG breakfasts about what Mayor Turner has done. He's joined C40 Reinventing Cities. He put up this parcel of land in Sunnyside and said, what can you do with this land that's good for the environment, that's good for the community, that's good for resiliency? And together with folks that I met through HREG from Sunnyside, we put together a proposal that ended up being the winning proposal. And now with BQ Energy we are co-developing this project. So that's the brief history of how we got to where we are. And where we are is we have this amazing opportunity to develop, this landfill. It's a former 240-acre landfill into an asset for the community. It'll be, as designed, the largest urban solar installation. It'll bring in a revenue of 70 million private sector investment, rather, and it will offset 120 million pounds of carbon dioxide after it's been built. It's in fact carbon neutral after year 5 approximately. And then, and it aligns with the climate action plan and the complete community's Sunnyside efforts. So there'll be a more detailed schedule in another slide, but we are targeting construction to begin in 2022. So I've told you my history, Wolf Energy, right? You know, developed what was huge to Vermont. It was a 7 megawatt, and now we're talking a 50 megawatt. And so to do that kind of work, you can only partner, you need to partner with the best, and that's BQ Energy. All they do is develop solar on landfills, excuse me. So there's a great partnership, and we're excited to be working on this project together. Why solar on a landfill? It is one of the best end uses for landfills. They're safe and they're productive use of the land. They have, they're minimally invasive to build, silent to run, and they have no harmful byproducts. So it keeps the service of the landfill safe and secure for a long time, because these are long-term contracts. There are components of this project. One is the utility scale component, 50 megawatt solar array, and it should produce enough electricity to power 5,000 homes. As I said, it will take 70 million in capital cost approximately to build, and construction starts in 2022. And our goal is to, well, it only makes sense to use as locally sourced labor as possible, right? It makes economic sense, but our goal is to really make this an opportunity for local and including Sunnyside residents. And we will be providing some training for training opportunities as well. Another aspect of this proposal is to have a 2 megawatt solar array installed on the northern section with enough capacity to do about 200 homes that is community owned. And again, we can be built by local contractors. It has, in part of that package, we intend to offer discount power for qualifying residents of Sunnyside. So again, bringing a piece of what I worked on up north and down here to Houston. So it's a great project, right? Right now that landfill is unmaintained. It's got trees growing through the cover, which is not appropriate. And so we will improve the landfill environmental integrity. It will be restored and maintained by the solar farm, control erosion, and will add bioretention features, a way of slowing off the runoff in a way that's good for the environment. And what we've done to date is we've completed the conceptual design. We've been ongoing with community outreach, and there's more to come throughout this whole process. We have received both the fast track interconnection and submitted the full interconnection study to ERCOT for interconnection. We've done the drone survey study, but we've also completed or in the process of completing a wetland survey and the necessary steps to go ahead and apply for the restoration permit from TCEQ. And we've hired selected Golder Associates to help us with that process. And big news, as of January, we have the lease for the surface lease signed January 13th. So all of this means we can now really move forward. The permitting has to meet with all federal and local environmental codes. We will be doing tree chipping and grading some work. There's standing water on the site, which should not be over landfill, so we'll make sure that that's improved. And as I said, we'll hold public meetings throughout the process. It's a great location for solar. Have I said that? It's urban, it's right where the load centers are, and it's right near a substation. It has high tension power lines running right by it. It's a really great site for solar. And then we'll be seeking off-takers for the power, and that will begin after we have more of the permits in place. And this is the overall schedule of the process. It takes time to get this type of project permitted. So that's what most of this next year will be focused on, is getting the permits in place and then the financing secured. Then we can begin building. And so again, thanks to the City of Houston, to Laura Cottingham, the office Chief Sustainability Officer, and to Mayor Turner for having the vision of this project. I'll stop sharing and open this up to questions.
Yeah, and I see John put a question to the chat window, and that was the exact same question I was going to ask also. Once this is complete, can this be a model for other locations within Houston? And for Laura or Dory to answer that.
Yes, what we are doing, and then Laura, I'll let you, what we're doing is we're going to try and make it accessible to all. So, but Laura, what were you going to say?
Hey, hello, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And thank you, Dory, for a fabulous presentation. I get asked this question all the time, which is so great because people love this project, and it is my absolute favorite project to have worked on since coming to the city. There's not that many pockets of land as big as this one within the city to develop. So that's something to take into consideration. But what's really neat about this project, well, it is neat, but it's also unfortunate, is that almost every city in the United States has a landfill. And almost every landfill is in a community just like Sunnyside. And so if you notice that one of President Biden's executive orders was focused around environmental justice and specifically looking at brownfields. And so this is a type of project that other cities all across the country can try to copy.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Dory. I think Marco had his hand up. Marco, did you want to come off mute and ask a question?
No, I was just clapping. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much, Dory. Awesome.
Oh, thank you. Does anybody have any questions they wanted to ask?
I see another question.
I've got another one in chat.
Yeah, I see Hans' question.
Either way.
Go ahead, Hans.
I was just curious about if you've done any
I'm going to turn off video, okay? I don't want people to see me.
I was just curious about if you've done any comparisons in terms of the overall capital cost and operating cost per megawatt hour. How does that stack up against natural gas power plants from an overall cost point of view?
I personally have not done the studies, but I have read that if you are considering creating a new power plant at this day and age in most parts of the country, solar and wind end up being the most cost-effective power plant to create.
I agree with that, and I suspect that's true. It'd just be pretty cool information to have in terms of advocating this type of project.
What I will add is I don't think the residents of Sunnyside, which are we've been working with them over the years to get their buy-in and to understand their concerns. I have a feeling they would not appreciate a new natural gas power plant in their neighborhood. So what's pretty cool about this is it is, welcomed by the neighborhood at this point. Which leads to another question. I see John Howard. Do you want to ask your question, John?
Thank you very much. It's wonderful news. What do you foresee as any opposition to this? Roadblocks?
Solar development is full of hurdles, right? So
Yeah.
full of hurdles.
Yeah.
And we never breathe easy until we have it up and running. So to me, one of the ones coming up that is critical is getting the permission, the permit from TCEQ to restore the site in a cost-effective manner, right? It should be grandfathered in. We've read the rules. It should all go, but that's the big unknown at this point in time.
How about the power companies?
So ERCOT and CenterPoint, right? We've already gotten the approval from the fast track study, and now we're into the full interconnection study. We have scoped it out preliminarily, and we've checked our, dotted our I's and crossed our T's. In theory, it should be a no-brainer. Like usually the challenge is because you're out west and you're trying to bring power in across very constricted transmission lines. That's not the case, right? With ours, we're right here in the hub, in the place where power is needed. So knock on wood, and we have the city's support again, which is great. Hopefully that process will go even faster than they usually take.
Dory, along those same lines, do you see any opposition among members of the community?
What's interesting, I don't know if you saw an article that came out, and we were like, it quoted or seemed to quote or seemed to infer that a neighbor who actually is adjacent to this park and this landfill was questioning it. When we talked with him and met with him, he's like, oh, no, go for it. No, I'm supportive of it. So there would like to be dirt, right? In other places of the country, when people don't want to see their power, right? They want it to be someone else's backyard. And what we've strived to do, and we're not done with this process yet, is make sure this project truly benefits the community, right? And so, as I've said, we've been having, as we've gone through the proposal process, we've been having open meetings, inviting community to come. Complete Community Sunnyside has invited us to their working workshops. And as noted in the presentation, that the solar farm is integral in their action plan for Sunnyside. So, but it's education. It's educating what are those benefits, making sure people understand those benefits and how we're going to help them integrate into the community.
I see a question from Mark in the chat. Who will be the consumers of the electricity that's produced?
Good question. Mark, we know it's not going to be the city because they are 100% renewably powered right now from a contract that they have. But we have no worries that there will be an off-take, but we're just not yet there ready to sign anybody up because we need to know about the permitting costs.
And following up on that same question, so would this project be really a wholesaler to a separate retail company?
And I did not include that slide in the presentation, but there are different ways to get that offtake to happen. It could be direct, not direct, but to one off-taker, like someone in the medical center. But yes, it could also be wholesale to an REP, to a retail energy provider.
Very good. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Does anybody just want to verbally take yourself off mute and ask any additional questions?
I have one more. Dory, are you partnering with any educational institutions to help them learn about the solar industry in that community?
What a great question, Teacher John. We have spoken with Houston Community College, and we have applied for grants. So we can do a solar array. We can build a solar array, and the community will benefit from money each year after the solar array is built. But initially, and we're going to do this one training, which will invite students, older students to. There'll be a training in the community, 10-week class, where we'll actually hopefully build a donated array as part of that class. So there'll be that opportunity. But and ongoing, after the array is built, we happy to give tours, right? Of just, getting classes to come visit, and that we're happy to do that. With HCC, with TSU, with other colleges, they have classes to become a solar installer. They have classes to learn. And so it's the getting funding, getting the ability for community residents to be able to get on that track. That's what we've been applying for grants for. And the other piece of education is we're hoping to, at the community center. So right near this landfill is the Sunnyside Community Center. It's great place, great covered outdoor basketball, ball fields, walking trail. It's a very beautiful place. We were hoping to put up a kiosk of some type, even just wallboards of what's going on next door, so they can learn about solar. So it can be a interpretive center for learning about solar that way too. And I didn't even touch on other things the community wants, like an agri-hub center. And when that comes to pass, they'll have classes there too about sustainable agriculture in an urban setting. And, so there's lots of vision for more classes.
Lori, what about publicizing job opportunities?
Publicizing job opportunities?
Yeah, in the creation of this nationwide, the job opportunities for renewable energy is a big issue. And that would, I think, help further magnify the benefit of the program to emphasize the job opportunities in creating this thing.
Absolutely. That's what the solar training is all about, is saying, even if you just help on this construction, which maybe only lasts 6 to 9 months, you are now qualified to go out into that workforce. And yes, under the new administration and the new infrastructure plans, right? Yes. So that's a good point. And we do, when I have a longer talk, emphasize that, but we will, yes.
It looks like Marco had a similar question in the chat there about job opportunities, and how do we let people know if there are jobs that become available?
Well, I didn't even put a plug for this. So this is a multifaceted project, as you may have gleaned. And one of our partners, Solar United Neighbors, who also does the solar co-ops, is hosting a site for us. So you can find it at www.solarunitedneighbors.org/Sunnyside. And there you can sign up, learn about it more. There's a frequently asked question document you can link to, and there's more about the history of the project. But you can sign up to be on the quote waiting list. And you can sign up saying, I'm interested in installing, I'm interested in discount power for if you're a Sunnyside resident, I'm interested in being a community solar subscriber when we're ready to make that offering. I'm interested in just staying in touch, right? And volunteering. Like, we're going to need lots of help getting the word out into the community, making sure we're bringing the community along with these offerings. So that's short to say, feel free to please sign up, and we don't send out emails often, but we will send out maybe once every month or 2 months, an email update as to how the progress is going.
Dory, could you put that link in the chat window? That'd be helpful for everybody, I think.
Thank you
And
very
then
much.
I had another thought while we were talking about this. At some point when you're maybe further along making progress, this would be, I was thinking first some type of op-ed maybe to the Chronicle, or if not that, then at least getting more publicity through just on the news reporting side to really make people aware of the success once you really get going on that.
Good. And you are my media guru expert. So one thing to make sure that when I talk with many hats, but when I talk as co-developer of this project, with the lease, we sign a communications plan. And we do want to make sure that what we say is in line with what the city wants us to say. So we make, because messaging, Laura knows only too well, can get out of, the rumors can spread too fast. So that's one thing. We just want to keep Laura in the loop as we communicate about this project.
Right. Very good. All right. An excellent presentation. Thank you again, Dory. Any last minute questions?